On this episode of the Layover Live, Star Gilani stops by to talk about her 5 digital marketing trends for 2023. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 182 of the Layover Live. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Strategy and Insights at SimpleView, and thank you, as always, for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We really do appreciate it. Now, we are deep into Q4, and as destination marketers, you're likely looking to the future to plan for what's ahead, and of course, to get the most out of your marketing budget heading into 2023. Now, more than ever, you're expected to be more proactive in gathering insights into what new trends are emerging all the time, but it can be hard to know which ones are worth paying attention to. So not sure really where to start? Well, I'm joined today by strategic analyst Star Gilani to discuss 5 digital marketing trends and observations that you should be keeping an eye on heading into 2023 and beyond. So Star, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you as well. This is a really good thing. I know when you're coming on, we're bringing the energy, we're bringing the excitement. It's really cool. These 5 trends, it's always a good thing to do like this time of year, right? Because we're kind of getting into this new year and what we should be looking out for. So let's even hop right into it, and let's get to number 1 on the list. What is the first thing, Star, that you want DMOs to think about heading into this new year? I know you go to a lot of conferences and a lot of industry events and see a lot. So what's number 1 on your list?
So the number 1 thing on my list is that marketing is ever evolving. And I know that sounds something that's like a obvious duh moment, and I'm right there with you guys. But as you alluded to the fact that I've been traveling a lot and networking and learning from industry peers and just gaining my own personal knowledge about the expansion of the marketing world, I've learned that things are rapidly about to change. And a lot of that is right around the corner. And I say this because, we're kind of in an uncertain economic condition moment. There's a lot of like tenacity that's required from DMOs to not only stay ahead, but also compare their standards. So looking at all of that and looking at how AI is going to be capitalized on in marketing, I think that's definitely the one thing that I want to make sure I convey, that, we just stay on our toes and we take it for all it is and continue to test and optimize. And I do think giving your visitors, whether that's on your website or in person, giving them meaningful interactions is going to be a big part of tying it into how marketing is always and ever evolving. And last but not least, I know I just brought up AI, and that really ties back into real-time insights and real-time conversions. So looking into 2023 and the fact that things are about to shift into us being able to really optimize quickly, keeping that in mind is going to be really vital for success and to make sure that your marketing dollars are being spent the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Budgets probably more than ever are going to be scrutinized. We have to prove the value of our marketing efforts. It's what DMOs early in the year shared with us is one of the most important things looking forward, right? And being flexible and being able to adapt to an ever-changing landscape is ultra important. And boy, if we learned anything during the pandemic, that's one of the key things that we did learn. So I absolutely love that, Star. So let's move into number 2. And I think something that's on the list that we've heard a lot about, I think in the last 12 months, is really leveraging first-party data. So what do you want to share here for DMO, Star, for number 2 on your list?
Yes, and this is an important topic, and it is something that we've all been hearing about. But the one thing that I wanted to make sure that we did as a DMO internally is really asking ourselves, like, are we, our marketing teams, our sales teams, our incentive teams, like all working together to track any, and absolutely any possible touch point with our current clients or our prospect clients? And this goes even outside of digital marketing metrics. This could be someone calling your convention center phone line and asking a simple question like, oh, hey, do you know about this? Like, are you tracking that into your CRM or other database? Are you thinking about your visits when you're traveling and representing your cities? How are you collecting data then? With ever evolving technology, there's credit card data, there's geolocation data, there's so much that a DMO can invest in to learn about their visitors and users, but tapping into some of the things that they might already have access to where they don't have to spend that extra dollar, I think is really important to think about. As simple as your e-newsletters, are you optimizing that on your website? Are you optimizing those for conversions? Do you have drip campaigns, automated campaigns, that, just something as simple as that too, and really refining that and making it useful for both the user and you, I think is going to be really vital. And then just following up on that, some investing in programmatic and unified ads, really having your KPIs align with the data that you already have, and thinking about things like real-time chat bots, testimonials. Like, let me ask you, Jason, how many times do you look at a Google review before you go to a restaurant?
Yeah, honestly, a lot, right? If it's not coming from recommendation from a close friend, I'm absolutely looking at a review to find out. It definitely influences your decision, right?
Precisely. And so to have some sort of built-in reviews or testimonials in some form or fashion, whether that be for your primary stakeholders or for your visitor center, I think is a key important value. Because, we've had this conversation too about visitor centers and how they may or may not see the same type of visitation. But if you create this value in your visitor center by showcasing reviews, by showcasing what great things you're able to either purchase from local vendors or whatever that might be, I think showcasing that value for that user through, while also collecting first-party data information about these individuals, because Google reviews, you get to see a lot of information about them too, I think is all really vital when thinking about next year.
Yeah, I love that for the second one in your list, Star, because if we think about first-party data, what comes to mind, right? It's our website and it's email marketing first. But you're saying, hey, think beyond that. It's, data is really fragmented a lot of ways, but we're collecting that first-party data, and sometimes zero. What you're starting to hear a lot more is like zero-party data, right? And that's a whole nother episode that we could talk about later. But talking about that data and thinking beyond just your website and your own channels digitally, and thinking about where are other places that you can collect this data, I think is great information. That's some reviews, the visitor center, often things that we're not thinking about too often, but it's a great way to bring all those things together. So let's talk about then, and that's all a part of great content. So let's get into your third thing, right? And this is something that fuels a lot of what we do as digital marketers, really forms the base and the foundation of everything we do, and that is content. So, what are your thoughts here, and why is this on your list?
So for me, I think content is still king. And I joke when I say that, because when we first started focusing on content, we would all say that constantly, like content is king,
Right.
content is king. And now that a lot of DMOs have been great about creating content, whether that be blog posts, social media, you name it, I think everyone has invested in that category. But now I think we take a step back and we tie it into things that we know our users are looking for. And by that, I mean, having some SEO built into your strategy, creating more evergreen content so you're not continuously creating seasonal content, recycling content you already have and refreshing it with new dates. And, even as soon as an event passes or a season passes, just so that if someone is looking for something in winter, but we're still, let's say in spring, they're able to find that content readily, because, we want to be able to provide that for them and we want it to be most current. So Google can prioritize your listings and your information as well. In addition to that, I think cross-sharing content is vital. I think it was one of my clients that said, like, if you're not using your content at least 3 times, you're not doing it right. And I was like, that's such a brilliant and easy way to put it. And I completely back that up. Like, whether that's a 7-second video that you have on your TikTok channel and you're cross-sharing that through Instagram Reels and then posting it embedded into your blog post, why not? Kind of crowdsurfing all of your data into this one portal of cross-sharing, I think, is just really vital when you're looking at your content. UGC images are also still very important. And also I think content moving forward is going to be a great way to build trust within visitors, potential users, and your DMO. And I say this because you're able to showcase your staff, how you're supporting your community, how you're involved within your community and what you're doing for your visitors, and showcasing that transparency that almost everyone is looking for now, whether that be for the destination or with another business. I think content is going to be able to do all of that for you going into 2023.
Yeah, I love that, Star, and the fact that, we think about content, we think about written copy often, but we need to think about other areas of that. And it still forms the base of all of these things that we do. We just need to think about how that content's delivered and how we're presenting that. To your point, short form video is a great way to do that. Repurposing it from your written content, turning it into a blog, then turning it into a video, then turning it into a short form video or a social media post. There's a million ways you can cut that up, but because content is such a heavy lift for a lot of us, and something I think that people that aren't in the space don't understand terribly well, and the fact that people who are good writers and people who can put content together are really good thinkers, right? They're really good at thinking about what the end user wants, what their experience is like. We maybe take that for granted, but those are valuable resources on your team or at your agency that are working with you on developing these things. So it absolutely forms the base of that. If we're going to provide a personalized experience, which consumers are demanding more than ever, we have to think about content. Awesome.
Exactly.
So yeah, so
And
love
it
that.
ties into our aspect of wanting more interactive content too, which gets our users to do actions on our website or even with our social media posts, like when you have polls. And so all of that really ties in, and it is what the public is looking for, especially when you're even doing brand partnerships, whether that be with influencers, creating those long-term relationships with influencers that are representing your brand and what you stand for. I think all go back into that.
You got it. And those are desired actions that as a DMO we should be looking at creating more of. That interactivity is a great connection. It keeps that engagement, which is an important KPI for DMOs to measure well. So could not agree more. So now we're talking about measurement. We recently launched our 4th edition of the State of SEO report, and in that we talk pretty heavily about Google Analytics 4. And fourth thing on your list is that trend around Google Analytics 4, GA4 as it's often referred to, which has certainly been a busy topic of late with Google as well as with other DMOs. So what perspective and tips are you wanting to share here? Because I'm glad this is on your list because it is something that's really, really important heading into this next year.
So I've been like a GA4 geek recently. I think I've been reading about it before bed, like almost every night. So this part really excites me. And I think the one thing is it's going to be able to provide those actionable insights using AI, which is going to be tremendous. And a lot of the focus right now at GA4 is focused on real time. So they're looking at what we can do now, what type of sessions are there now, and how are they behaving on your site now, which really goes back to telling us about our user experience. And we're also learning that users are being prioritized over sessions in GA4, which is going to be very interesting. I think now more than ever, though, looking at your universal analytics data and going into GA4, having proper tagging is going to be essential for you to be able to pull really great reporting. I would also say that if you don't have a GA4 already set up, Google Analytics, I think, is coming out with their own like machine setup that's going to happen early next year. So that's going to be really interesting for AI to do itself. And I know Campaign Manager 360 is also going to have some sort of integration with GA4. So with all of that coming into one hub, especially if you have an app and a website, all of those sessions going and users going into one hub, it's going to be able to give you so much more data that you can really use and again turn into actionable items within your teams.
Yeah, this is a really important time from analytics and measurement, right? One of the most important channels, or I say one of the most important assets for a DMO is their website. And in doing that, we have to measure the effectiveness of our advertising and driving people into that website so we can not only give them what we need, but we can also influence them to travel to our destination. That's typically done on the website, and it's typically done with custom analytics and things like that that evolve into the future. So I'm so glad that this is on your list because it's such an important thing, Star, to think about as we're moving in to this new year. Google's planning on sunsetting Universal Analytics mid-year next year. I think it's July 1st is the time for that. That may or may not change, but regardless, you need to be preparing for it now. Now, the good thing is you mentioned some of these new automations that are coming around setting it up. Good thing is if you're an SEO client at SimpleView, we were way out ahead of this. We set this up well in advance to make sure that you had year-over-year data. But that's also going to evolve over time. Google has been actively in this space, adding features, taking features out, updating features, doing a lot of different things. So it's something that our SEO team, I know that your strategy team, Star, is keeping a close eye on that type of stuff to make sure that we're evolving and setting ourselves up for success moving forward, because it is a new era of analytics. It is a new way of measuring it. And it's something that we're going to have a lot more content on as we get closer to that sunsetting date. So I'm glad that that was on your list. Now, all of this is important. We talked about change earlier on. You talked about all these new things that are evolving and happening. And creating a culture, I think, of testing then is important. And even more so as user behavior has changed so much over the last 2 years. We've seen it in a lot of our analytics accounts that we looked at. We've seen it with a lot of ad performance activity and things of that nature. So with your fifth and final trend, what are you wanting users to know here about testing and the importance of testing? This is something that I think is ultra important. I've said this many, many times on the podcast and at webinars and at speaking engagements that, really having a testing program as part of your overall marketing mix is absolutely important. To me, it's as vital and as basic of a necessity as having SEO. SEO is something that we don't even think about anymore. It's just something we have a part of every year because it's such an important thing for a DMO, especially when it makes up more than 60% of their traffic on average across the industry. But all that traffic coming in needs to be tested, and we need to make sure that we're matching the intents of that website with the user's overall behaviors. And so it's so important. So I'm glad to see this on your list. So really, what do you want DMOs to know here, Star, about testing and why this is the last thing on your list?
Well, I think it goes perfectly in with what you're saying. And it's the fact that whether you're testing an ad with an A/B performance or you're testing an actual landing page where that ad comes to a desired action, I think is vital. I feel like in the DMO world, we know what are some of our major problems are, and we spend a lot of time tackling them, but we don't take a step back to look at we don't go back down to the basics. We know that certain landing pages and certain pages are made for conversion, whether that be e-newsletter signups, interactions, and other ways, quizzes, to really dig deep and get that user to build trust with you. I think testing is vital. And even just a campaign page testing. We send, like you said, so much paid media traffic to certain pages, but we don't end up testing them to see, oh, what if we, based on this heat map analysis, move this button up and maybe we might get our desired action faster. And that's why I think testing is so vital, so important. And a data-driven decision is backed up by everyone because the numbers don't lie. And that's why I think testing is vital going into next year.
Yeah, really, really good points. And it is true, right? It's kind of in some ways can be a CYA thing for DMOs in some ways, right? Because it takes the gut feelings out of it and says, hey, we didn't go this direction with our marketing efforts because we felt a certain way. We went in this direction because the data and the user experience insights that we got told us to go in this direction. That's a much different conversation for DMOs, for their stakeholders, and something I think that's really, really, really important. So I'm happy that you have this on the list because it is very, very important. Those gut feelings then can form the hypothesis or the test ideas that you have that you should go test, right?
Yes.
And oftentimes with DMOs, we can do little tests. We do small tests with buttons changing or colors changing, right? That's low hanging fruit stuff. But you can even experiment with different layouts or different ways you're presenting the information. So it doesn't have to just be these simple ones, although very often, because we historically haven't seen a lot of testing in this space, small changes can have big impact for DMOs. Mm-hmm. But for those DMOs who are maybe already had done it, or maybe we're getting to the point of diminishing returns for a certain campaign, even testing different layouts and whatnot and serving a B version or a C version of a landing page is a no-brainer and a place to start. So I'm so happy that that's on your list.
Yeah. And, Google itself is doing testing right now with Google Performance Max, where they prioritize what they see is being clicked on, and they know that's what's going to give you the most value for your money. And I think Ben spoke about this on your last episode as well. And I think that's a great example of how Google is also taking that initiative of testing and how they're thinking it's important as well.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. And I'm glad you tied that together, Star, because we have to think about, from a marketing standpoint, we get really romantic about the traffic and coming to our website. And we don't think about what do we want those people to do when they get there. You and I have been in many, many sessions where we've asked, hey, what desired actions do you want to happen on the website? And oftentimes I think we struggle to get those answers back, right, to those questions. So I would say as you're moving in, thinking about trends for next year, thinking about testing, what do you want people to do once they get there? Do you want them to engage with key pieces of content? Do you want referrals out to your partners to amplify your local businesses and really prop up the community? Do you want them to engage with certain videos? Do you want them to fill out a form, as we're talking about first-party data? Could be all of those things. Could be a focus on one of those things. But you need to think about that, because then we can start to optimize for that desired action. And to Star's point, the desired action really then notifies Google and Performance Max and your marketing activities that I want more of this and less of this. And that really helps the AI and machine learning components of your marketing efforts to really thrive. So really, really good points there, Star. And thank you so much for coming on the show. This is like really, really good stuff. I love thinking about this, and I hope that viewers see a lot of benefits of this, and something that we're absolutely happy to talk about, where you contact me or contact Star and the team. These are things that we're keeping an eye on. I hope these are helpful things to keep an eye on. So Star, thank you once again for coming on and sharing this with everyone.
Thank you. I had a great time. And sorry I had a few coughing moments to anyone that saw me dip my head.
Hey, all good. It's that season, right? We got this just comes with the territory. So yeah, no problem at all, and really, really appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, please do so now. We're also available on audio podcasts through Spotify and iTunes. So thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next time. Hope you have a great day.